Imagine a time when silence was broken only by the wind cutting through rocks and the crackling of flames in dark caves. In this world, long before words took shape on paper, early humans sought ways to leave marks that would survive the grip of forgetfulness. Using pigments extracted from earth, charcoal, and minerals, they covered stone walls with scenes of hunts, human figures, and sacred animals. These were stories painted in the echo of time, created about 40,000 years ago, not meant to be read, but to be felt. Each stroke was an attempt to capture a moment and share it with those who would come after. Yet these signs, as beautiful and symbolic as they were, did not speak a defined language. They were images loaded with meanings that existed only in the memory of their makers, visual mnemonics relying on oral tradition to gain meaning. Over the millennia, human life ceased to move to the rhythm of hunting and migrations. The land began to be cultivated, livestock raised, and villages expanded until they became centers of organized life. The Neolithic revolution arose, bringing with it a new reality, the need to record what could not be lost. Harvests had to be counted, trade exchanges noted, agreements sealed, and laws defined for all to know. Memory, powerful as it was no longer enough to sustain a growing society. Something enduring was needed, something that could resist forgetting and cross generations without distortion. It was in this setting, between cultivated fields and dirt roads, that the impulse to create a system capable of eternalizing information began to shape human destiny, inevitably leading to the first mark that would cease to be just an image and become something much greater. In the fertile heartland between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, where the land drank from the floods and returned abundance, the first known cities rose. There, in Sumer, around 3,300 to 3,200 years before Christ, a silent milestone would forever change the way humanity recorded the world. Among towering temples and bustling markets, scribes bent over small clay tablets still damp, pressing wooden or metal styluses into their surface. Each touch left a wedge-shaped mark, and from these marks was born cuneiform writing. At first, these were just simplified drawings, pictograms representing grains, animals, goods, useful for counting sacks of barley, calculating taxes, or recording trade agreements. But like a river finding new paths, this system soon evolved. The symbols were reduced, becoming more abstract, and began to carry sounds, names, and ideas. Phonetic signs and determinatives emerged, allowing the clay to hold not just things but also concepts and stories. Thus, the simple wedge-shaped mark opened the doors for words to cross time and gained space to expand even further into other lands. While cuneiform marks took shape on the plains of Mesopotamia, along the banks of the majestic Nile, another form of writing blossomed with an almost divine aura. In Egypt, around 3,000 years before Christ, the system of hieroglyphs emerged, a complex and fascinating combination of symbols that blended drawings representing entire words, sounds, and even isolated letters. With a repertoire ranging from 900 to 1,000 characters, this writing was not for everyone. It was a language reserved for scribes, true masters of the sacred stroke, whose art adorned majestic monuments, imposing temples, and tombs meant to immortalize kings and gods. The word hieroglyph comes from Greek and means sacred writing, and for good reason. The stroke of that symbol carried not only meaning, but also an almost mystical power. Yet practical needs in everyday life brought innovations. From the rigidity of hieroglyphs were born faster and simplified forms. Hieratic script used for literary texts and official documents, and demotic, even more fluid, used in daily transactions, ensuring that writing was not confined to the sacred but spread throughout daily life, opening new possibilities for communication. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, other systems began to emerge, each with its own story and mystery. While the writing systems of the Middle East and Egypt took deep root, other cultures around the globe forged their own paths toward written communication. In China, during the Shang dynasty, around 1,200 years before Christ, the first characters were inscribed on turtle shells and bones, primarily used for divination rituals. These precise primitive signs formed the foundation of what we now recognize as Chinese ideograms, a writing system that conveys not only sounds, but also rich visual and philosophical meanings, making it one of the oldest and most continuous scripts in history. On the other side of the world, in Mesoamerica, civilizations like the Maya developed, starting in the 3rd century before Christ, a complex writing system known for combining symbols that represented both whole words and specific sounds, creating a logosyllabic mosaic capable of recording everything from historic events to sacred legends. Prior to them, the Olmecs, between 1500 and 1200 years before Christ, left evidence of proto-writing signs, early attempts at recording, though scholars still debate whether this constituted true formal writing. These independent manifestations underscore how the human need to record, count, and preserve stories found diverse and fascinating expressions worldwide, setting the stage for even greater transformations yet to come. As societies grew more complex, the ancient writing systems, based on hundreds of symbols, became difficult to learn and use in everyday life, especially for merchants who needed to quickly record transactions. Around 1100 years before Christ, the Phoenicians, skilled navigators and traders, created a revolutionary solution: a phonetic alphabet composed of about 22 symbols, each representing a basic sound of speech. This simplified system greatly facilitated commercial exchanges and daily communication, allowing words to be written with precision and speed. Later, the Greeks adopted and adapted this Phoenician alphabet, adding vowels, a crucial step that transformed the system into something more complete and efficient for representing their spoken language. With 24 characters, the Greek alphabet not only eased writing, but also paved the way for the flourishing of literature, philosophy, and science in antiquity. From this Phoenician Greek alphabet, over the centuries, emerged the Latin alphabet, the system that today dominates writing in many languages around the world, consolidating a heritage that connects ancient civilizations to modern forms of communication. While this transformation unfolded, new archaeological discoveries and theories continue to challenge our understanding of the origins of writing. The history of writing, as ancient as it may seem, still holds mysteries and surprising revelations. Recently, archaeologists discovered inscriptions on clay cylinders dating back to approximately 2400 years before Christ, found in a tomb in Syria at the archaeological site of Tel el-Mara. These intriguing marks cast new light on the origins of alphabetic writing, suggesting they may date the Proto-Sinaitic system, traditionally considered the world's first alphabet. However, what seemed like a definitive answer opened the door to new debates. Experts discuss whether these symbols truly form a complete alphabetic system or represent a proto-alphabetic writing, an intermediate stage, or even a completely different type of symbolic record. At the same time, theories reach even further back to the Paleolithic era, where cave paintings and marks made by early humans might indicate primitive forms of proto-writing, used to record natural cycles or events, although scholarly consensus remains uncertain. These debates reveal that writing is not a single, clear invention, but a continuous and complex process, with many chapters still to be uncovered. Meanwhile, other writing systems and uses continued their paths, influencing and being influenced by diverse cultures throughout the millennia.